Hey my friends, it's Sunny Dawn Johnston, author of Invoking the Archangels, a 9-step process to heal your body, mind, and soul, and creator of Detox Your Life, a 44-day mind, body, and spirit detox program. So today I was thinking, I've had a lot of people ask me what my favorite books are, like, what are your favorite books? And gosh, there's so many books. I'm actually kind of a book freak. Like, I like a lot of books. I have probably over 1,000 books in my house, and then I probably have about 500 books right here in my Healing Center classroom. I like books. And even if I have the book on Kindle, I gotta have the book in print too, because it just feels different. And the thing that's so funny is I don't read very much. So it isn't that I read all these books, I just like them. I kind of think that if I sit them next to my bed, then I kind of get the message and the energy through osmosis in some kind of way. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think so. So anyway, but a lot of people ask me what my favorite books are, what the books are that were life-changing for me. And really there are a lot of different ones that have come at different times in my life. But I'm going to give you a few of the books that have been really critical for me. And maybe you too. You may have already read them. I'd love to hear what are your favorite books? What books have been life-changing for you? And for me, the very first one, and I've talked a lot about this, is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. You know, that book came to me at a time in my life where I was so lost, and I didn't know who I was, what I was doing, why the hell I was in the place I was in as a brand new mom, and it really turned my world around. Number one, it turned it upside down. Well, actually, the first time I didn't really turn it upside down. It was just like, I don't know, that doesn't even, like, it just sounded way too easy, and it didn't sound possible. At the same time it was easy, it didn't seem like any of those techniques would work. So it wasn't until about 6 months later, when I got in a little more pain and felt a little shittier, that I thought, okay, I got to read this again. And then I read it like with heart. Before I just read it to read, and I didn't read all of it, and I didn't do any of the exercises in it. When I read it the second time, it was life-changing for me. And it took me from the place I was at that time, a 19-year-old teenage mother in a relationship with an alcoholic, on food stamps and welfare, living in a shack without heat and air conditioning, and that's the person that I was. And the lack of self-esteem and self-love was just incredible. It was palpable. You could feel it just being in my energy. It was so dense. And following the techniques, the suggestions, even just having somebody say, hey, I healed myself of cancer, and hey, your body is telling you things after I had nearly died after having my son. That book, and just reading it and doing what it said to do, began to shine a light in my life that I hadn't recognized or hadn't seen. And I really needed. I believed it was a lifesaver for me. So You Can Heal Your Life for sure is one of the top books in my top 5. One of the others, which so many of you have read, and if you haven't read this book, you need to read it, is The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. The 4 Agreements are they're foundational tools. Just like the Louise Hay book, You Can Heal Your Life, it was foundational tools. It was a language that 30 years ago, people didn't even recognize that our emotions manifested things in our body. Same with the 4 Agreements. You know, the 4 Agreements are just foundational laws, rules, agreements that we have as physical and energetic beings as part of the universe. And if we follow these agreements, then life flows. And if we don't follow the agreements, it's a little bit harder. So the 4 Agreements are so powerful. And as I sit here right now, I'm going to kind of look like an ass because I can't remember them all, but I'll tell you the ones I do remember. For sure, don't take anything personally. That's for sure. always be in integrity with your word. Always, speak the truth, say the truth, and tell the truth. Be integrous with your word. Don't take things personal. See, I just told you I didn't remember them. But that's okay. There's 4 of them, and they're great, and I haven't read the book recently, but the one that I always come back to is not to take things personal, because that's one that has been such a life, it's been such a life journey for me to learn how to not do that. I get opportunities on a daily basis to practice that, and most of the time I'm really pretty good with it. There's a lot of things I don't take personal that I think I'm at not taking personal. So that's the one that was just so powerful to me, and maybe to you too. So if you care to share in the comments, by the time I get done with the video, I'll remember what it is, because that's the way it works. The third book that I would say had a real strong impact on me about 22 years ago was I read The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And I don't remember how I found it, how it came to me, how it ended up in my hands. I didn't go out looking for it, so most of these books came to me in some miraculous way, right? But when I read this book, I had a little bit of resistance around it at first because it was more of a religious book. But when I read it, the message was very, very clear. It was very, very, coming from a very heart-based place. And it helped me identify challenges that I had within myself, within my marriage, that I didn't have any clue on. And, so the 5 love languages, what it's about is that we all have a different love language. And if we're not communicating our love language, if we're communicating our love language one way, and our partner has a different love language, then oftentimes neither one of us feels appreciated or feels heard or feels connected. And so like if your love language is physical and your partner's love language is gifts, then they might be buying you gifts all the time and all you want is a hug or sex. Where the partner that has gifts, you're just wanting to have sex or get a hug or a kiss or hold hands, and the other partner's like, hey, buy me a present. And so then neither one of them feels connected, wanted, desired, appreciated, and so on and so forth. And so what that did for me was it helped me to recognize very early in my marriage that I had expectations about the way that my husband should show his love to me, because I expected it in the way that I gave it. And I was in acts of service and quality of time, and he was physical and quality of time. So it would create conflict, though, for us, because I didn't understand that. As soon as I read that book, like the light bulb went off, the aha, and that was it. It was like I understood it. I got it. So that book was really critical in my own shift. One of the other books that was really changed my perception of life, and was such a powerful book for me, and I can't remember when I read it. I think I was a teenager, 15, 16 maybe, was The Prophet by Kayla Gabron. And, it was a book that in some ways I didn't even understand some of the messages. They were so deep and so profound that they went way over my head consciously. I read that book so many times, like my soul knew. My spirit knew what my mind couldn't even understand at 15, some of it. And I had a real attraction to that book for some reason. And I know now that the reason I had it is because it was my language. It was just in a different language, right? It was beyond my years at that time. But The Prophet, if you haven't read The Prophet by Kayla Gabron, it's such a beautiful message, and I think a real foundational piece of literature, at least for me. And then, last but not least, one of the books I so enjoyed reading, I loved the way that this gal wrote. She's since passed. Lynn Grabhorn was her name, and she wrote, "Excuse me, my life is waiting. Excuse me, your life is waiting." And she's a funny writer, and she's so clever and witty, and it was kind of it's a book and a workbook, and I love book workbooks. You Can Heal Your Life, book workbook too. And even the love language had some workbook stuff in it. Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting is a book about manifestation and the law of attraction. And when I read that book and I did the workbook part of it, there is a workbook that goes along with it. I was manifesting just things like crazy, like it was the coolest thing ever. But and that was probably 15, 16 years ago when I read it, but what I remember was the fun and the humor and the lightheartedness and the play as I read the book, the experientials that she brought us into, and how fun that felt. And then in that fun, higher vibration, then you just continue to attract more fun and higher vibration. So I loved that book too. And then I really do have to throw one more in there, and that book would be Ask and It Is Given by Esther Hicks through Abraham. And I don't know that I even read the whole book, but that was my introduction to Abraham. And I truly believe that there is no clearer there's no clearer channel that I've come across in my own experience than the work of Esther Hicks, of channeling of Abraham, and have found myself not only feeling aligned and guided and connected to the messages of Abraham, but also feeling very aware and knowing that is the same truth that I have within myself. That's the same guidance that comes to me and through me. Different languaging, different way. Mine's more conscious, but very powerful. And when I would hear some of the messages from Abraham, how it would just activate and align and confirm and validate not only that I was on the right path, but that the work that I was doing had value as well. So that was very life-changing book, but more teachings for me, because it opened a door and confirmed a place in my life at a time in my life where I needed that. So I guess I had 6, I think, is what I had. But those books have been really valuable to me. I would love to hear what your top 5 books are, top 6 books are, because I think we all learn. It's like, it kind of like, what's that saying called? You cut the fat? Cut the fat? Is that what it's called? Like you cut the fat off, so then you just get to the meat of things. I'm a vegetarian, so that is not appealing to me at all, but that's what came, so that's what I shared. So I'd love to hear what your top 5 books are, and so please comment below and let me know, what are they? Maybe we'll have 100 people that comment, and we'll have all these different books to choose from to go on the journey and read. One of the things I do think, though, is, over the past probably 20 years, I haven't done a lot of reading, and just in the last 2 years, I've really gotten back into much more, taking much more time to educate myself in a variety of different ways, reading a lot more in different areas of my life than I have probably in the 20 years previously. So it's definitely an energy for me that's coming back in and saying, hey, it's time to learn and time to grow and time to expand in other ways. I think during that time that I quit reading, it's because I was having my own guidance and I was working so much internally, I didn't want to be influenced by outside influences. And now I feel like I'm at a place where I'm very solid in my own knowledge and clear on those things, so I can open myself up for more, for different ways, different information, different knowledge, and even different influences. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that. Grab some of those books if you haven't read them yet. For sure, go ahead and pick one up. Thanks so much, and create peace, love, and light, my friends.